Diversity and inclusion is an important topic that every company needs to be discussing right now. And joining me today is Rashida Thomas, the Vice President of Talent Acquisition for Lear Corporation. Rashida, thank you for joining me.
No problem. Thank you for having me, Stephanie. I appreciate it.
Well, I want to start off by talking about you. You have a couple of different engineering degrees and an MBA. What made you want to be an engineer?
Well, I was always good in math and science. I really had an appreciation for solving problems, and I got some early engagement in a program called Detroit Area Pre-College Engineering Program in the city of Detroit, DAPSEP, that really exposed me to engineers in the field, how it can open up tons of opportunities no matter what industry I was going into, and really align with my desire to kind of figure things out and use kind of that mathematical, methods of figuring solutions and coming up with new ways of doing things. So engineering seemed to be a great path to allow me to do that.
Right. What was your experience personally as you went through schooling and then corporate as an engineer?
Well, I always tell this story about when I first went to school to become an engineer. I took an assessment to decide what field I should go into, and the assessment said I should be a ferry boat driver. And I always laugh because I don't swim, and I didn't want to be a ferry boat driver. And I told them I wanted to be an engineer, and they said that engineering was going to be too hard for me. And that was based on no information at all. And so I asked what was the hardest engineering program available. They said electrical engineering. And so that is how I became an electrical engineer. And so I had a number of challenges throughout my career as an engineer, with really just trying to make sure people understood the value that I brought to any organization, building the right relationships. And I tried to focus not so much on how I was different, because I certainly was one of very few females, and definitely one of few African Americans in the engineering discipline. But I tried to focus on the things that I had in common with people in those fields, as opposed to the things that made me different. And I think that really helped me to move in my career, to align with opportunities, and really to focus more on the engineering and solving problems, and less on some of the diversity aspects that came with me just being in that kind of space. So it was challenging, but it was also fun, and it was exciting, kind of charting new territory. And I soon realized that I became an example for others to follow as far as the things that they could accomplish, and that motivated me even more.
And how are you using that in your current role at Lear as VP of Talent Acquisition, and before that you were Chief Diversity Officer?
Yes. I think my background in engineering really has allowed me to kind of, I won't call it a liaison, but really kind of bridge what I think is typically a gap between what is the traditional HR function and the engineering divisions, right? So they have a need for talent, and HR may understand what is on a job description, but they don't necessarily always understand what it's like to be an engineer and the kinds of things that might matter to you as an engineer. So as a person who's been on both sides of the spectrum, I think I'm able to bring a very unique position to the table to talk about the experience from an engineer's perspective on what really matters about the culture and the opportunities that present themselves. So I think it gives me a unique lens to kind of see both sides and have different kinds of conversation with talent that we want to bring into the organization.
And quickly, before we run out of time, I mean, what do you envision the future of the manufacturing workforce looking like, and any advice for women trying to get into this field?
I mean, I think if we want it to be the best that it can be, it has to be diverse. And I don't just mean diversity as far as how people look, but diversity as far as how people think. And what I would venture to offer as far as advice is making sure that you say yes to opportunities, that if you think something needs to be done, raise your hand to be the one to do it. Don't wait for other people to do things. There's tons of opportunities, and how you get noticed and have the visibility is by taking those opportunities.
Excellent. Rashida Thomas, thank you so much for joining us. I am Stephanie Neal, reporting for PAC Expo Connects from Boston. And Sean, back to you at the anchor desk.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thank you, Stephanie. Let's continue this very important conversation about diversity in the workplace. I'd like to introduce two engineers from General Mills, Patrick Keenan and Ray Smith Bird. Patrick and Ray will talk about diversity in STEM as well as the impact packaging has on the brand. Gentlemen, welcome to Pack Expo Connect's Jumpstart.
Thanks, Sean. My name is Patrick Keenan. I work on research and development at General Mills, specifically on the Annie's brand. And today I want to introduce you to my colleague, Ray. Ray, if you could go ahead and introduce yourself, that would be great.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ray Smith-Bird. I'm an R&D cereal process engineer at General Mills. I also serve as the president of the National Society of Black Engineers for the Twin Cities in Minneapolis and St. Paul, Minnesota. NSBE is focused on increasing the number of diverse engineers and improving diversity numbers in STEM. And we do this by hosting youth exposure programs for STEM and serving as mentors and volunteers for elementary, middle school, high school, and college students, providing representation, showing them that they too can be engineers. And on the professional side, for our engineers who have already attained their degrees, we focus on primarily professional development so that our members can continue to grow and advance within their careers.
That's awesome. I guess as a Black man working in STEM, what are some of the biggest challenges that you want people to understand?
I appreciate that question, Pat. Well, being Black in STEM, I've had to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Black people make up 14% of the population in the US, but we only make up roughly 9% of the STEM workforce. And if you add in a factor of having a bachelor's degree, we only make up 7%. And honestly, white people don't really know what it feels like to be a minority. Most times white people can walk into a room and most of the people in that room look just like them. They don't have to be uncomfortable. And then there's me and other Black people, other minorities. When we walk into a room, we're lucky, we're appreciative if there's one other person of color in that room. That's why I'm so passionate about changing the face of STEM. It's such a white, male-dominated field. But through organizations like NSBE, we are striving to motivate young, underrepresented students that regardless of what the industry currently looks like, you too can make your impact within this STEM field.
Yeah, that's some great insights. I guess working with a brand like General Mills, what do you think are some examples of how diversity can make an impact?
One example comes immediately to my mind. In 2018, H&M, the clothing brand or company, whatever you want to call it, they released a campaign where they had a young Black boy, and on the front of his hoodie, in bold letters, it read, "Coolest monkey in the jungle." Many Black people haven't shopped at H&M since, to this day, and I'm one of them, because who thought it was fine to call a young Black boy a monkey, even if he is the coolest? I am confident that there was not one Black person involved in the conversation about that ad, because no one would have sat in that room and said, yes, this is the ad, put that on the front page, right? Nobody would have said that. And I don't think I have to put it in historical context as to why you can't call a young Black boy a monkey. But this is an example, a prime example of having diversity in the room would have allowed your company to make better decisions for your public image.
Thank you for that. I think that's a really great example. I guess sort of to close it out, Ray, how do you think we could encourage more diversity in STEM?
I'll be honest, I don't have all the answers, and I never claim to have all the answers, because Black people, marginalized communities, we can't solve a problem that we have no control over. It's like asking Black people to end racism. White people have to end racism. But I do have some advice and ideas on how we can encourage diversity. First, listen to your diverse consumers and listen to your diverse employees. They won't lead you astray. And if you don't have diverse employees, it might be time to go and recruit, right? Also when making these diversity and equity pledges, because everyone's making them nowadays, and in all of your other communications, make sure you're being genuine and authentic, because people are not dumb. We can read through what's real and what's fake. Don't do it just because everyone else is doing it and following a trend. If it's not coming from a place of, I genuinely want to make change for the world, and if it's not authentic, you might as well keep it because nobody wants to hear it.
Well, thank you, Ray. That was really insightful, and appreciate your time.